I'm so excited to be here.
If you've ever suffered through a boring dinner date,
Thank you.
being on a dating show can look like a dream come true.
Crazy Bachelor.
But is being on The Bachelorette really a great way to find true love? We'll reveal some of the crazy rules contestants have to follow, including the one book they're allowed to read on set.
Oh my gosh.
Can you keep a secret? Well, you'd better hope you can if you want to appear on The Bachelorette. The show is taped in advance, meaning all the events you see unfold on television happened quite some time ago.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you just said that.
Because ABC counts on keeping people interested in finding out what happens next, this means the cast and crew have to be able to stay silent about what happens next. If you're caught spilling the beans, you'll have a lot more to worry about than not getting a rose. You can be forced to pay a penalty of $5 million.
Why?
Let's be honest, a lot of people tune into The Bachelorette to see which contestants end up hooking up. But if you're hoping to lock lips on the show, you're going to need to get permission first, and not just from the person you plan on smooching.
This is crazy.
The show Bachelor in Paradise came under fire when Corinne Olympios and Demario Jackson reportedly hooked up under sketchy circumstances. In order to avoid a possible scandal, ABC instituted a rule that participants must give consent on film in front of the producers. Only then is it permissible to commence off-screen activities. Of course, in addition to getting permission from producers, the contestants on the show still have personal agency. When Luke Parker confessed to Hannah Brown that he had chosen to remain abstinent, he then claimed he would leave if Hannah hadn't done the same since appearing on the show. Hannah wasn't happy about being judged and sent Luke packing. He refused to leave, saying she owed it to him to hear him out, but Hannah wasn't having it. Apparently, The Bachelorette does not, in fact, owe anything to anyone, least of all someone she's eliminating. It may seem like on The Bachelorette the drinks flow pretty freely, but it turns out there are rules about this as well. Contestants are limited to 2 drinks per hour to make sure people don't get out of control. But even though it may sound reasonable, it's entirely possible to over-imbibe depending on how long you keep drinking. Just ask season 11 contestant Ryan McDill, who got so out of control after drinking that Chris Harrison had to ask him to leave. Although he described his antics as gold, it's safe to say most people watching didn't exactly feel the same way. Even a limited amount of drinks can hit you hard if you haven't been eating enough, and getting a solid meal can actually be challenging on The Bachelorette. The contestants are kept on an odd schedule without regular meal times, and their dinner dates aren't actually used for eating. It might sound strange, but there's a practical reason you don't actually see people chowing down on the show. Viewers want to hear conversations between the Bachelorette and her suitors. They don't want to hear the sounds of 2 people chewing and smacking their lips. Instead, participants are encouraged to eat before their dinner dates. Okay, this rule might seem pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised how often it's broken.
Like, I can't even look at you right now.
If you show up to court The Bachelorette, you're not supposed to have any other romantic relationships in your life. But of course, there are some people out there just looking for a boost of fame. Although Jed Wyatt seemed like a frontrunner, it suddenly came out that he may have a girlfriend back home. Haley Stevens claims to have been in a serious relationship with Jed before he left to film the show, and says they spent the night together right before he left for LA. Getting to be a contestant on the show isn't easy. There are tons of interviews, investigations, and personality tests to take first. But it's a simple medical examination which ends up disqualifying the majority of would-be suitors. Anyone found to have a potentially transmittable disease is immediately removed from consideration, and it happens more often than you might think.
I'm really nervous about tonight.
Oftentimes, people are totally unaware they're even afflicted until they find out they've been rejected from The Bachelorette. Once you're actually on the show, it seems like the most challenging thing to do is to win The Bachelorette's heart.
You know, I gave you all.
I know you did.
But it turns out that simply surviving the 2-month filming process isn't easy. Contestants aren't allowed to use their cell phones to communicate with the outside world, but the rules go far beyond that. They can't browse the web, listen to music, or even read books. According to former The Bachelor contestant Ashley Frazier, the only book they were allowed to access during filming was the Bible.
Can I pray over you before I leave?
Not only do producers control what reading materials the contestants have access to, but they also control the way they speak. There are certain words which are absolutely banned, and they aren't afraid to re-record scenes when they have to. According to former Bachelorette contestant and former Bachelor Sean Lowe, the word process was forbidden. Instead, contestants were instructed to refer to their time on the show as a journey. Sean also claims he was told not to use the word love on the show, so instead he often resorted to saying, "I'm crazy about you." However, this rule may have changed since then, because we've definitely heard people claim to be falling in love on the show.
Now I'm falling in love with him.
Say that I'm falling in love with you.
I do love you.
I'm in love with you, Becca.
Everyone knows that best case scenario on The Bachelorette means you find true, everlasting love even if you can't say the word on TV. But what if you don't? Getting on the show means taking weeks off work with little notice, which means contestants sometimes don't have a job to go back to. And unless you win, you don't get a penny from the producers. Sure, a lot of people count on getting exposure from being on The Bachelorette, but that doesn't always translate into actual cash. But some former contestants are able to parlay this into becoming Instagram influencers paid to promote products. Former Bachelor Nick Viall even had the opportunity to star in a Halo Top commercial. If you do manage to win The Bachelorette, you not only get the love of your life, but a stunning engagement ring as well. These rings can be worth between $50,000 and $100,000, so they're nothing to scoff at. But of course, there's a catch. According to The Bachelorette winner Jesse Sinsak, the show's contract has a clause which mandates the minimum amount of time a couple has to stay together. They need to make the relationship work for at least 2 years following the day the finale aired in order to keep the ring. If not, the ring has to be returned. Wow, apparently sometimes diamonds aren't forever. Even though the contestants may not be allowed to actually eat their delicious looking dinners, they do get to go on some pretty over-the-top dates. But it's a lot less fun when they're mandatory, which they absolutely are on The Bachelorette. Contestants have to participate in dates no matter how crazy, scary, or physically draining they may be. When we saw Garrett Powell go on a bungee jumping session with Bachelorette Hannah Brown, he had no choice but to take the plunge. So if you're not willing to go skydiving, water skiing, or parasailing, you better think twice about signing up for this show. Clearly, being in good physical health is a prerequisite for being on The Bachelorette, but your mental health is important as well. During the screening process, contestants are tasked with filling out a personality test consisting of 150 questions. They're asked everything from the mundane "have you ever cheated on anyone" to the extreme "do you think you can control things with your mind?" We're going to guess thinking you have telepathy probably excludes you from the show. They would also undergo an investigation by a private investigator who would try to find anything which could come out later and embarrass the network. Since your dates can consist of, well, pretty much anything, you need to make sure you're prepared. But because of space limitations, contestants on The Bachelorette are instructed to only bring 2 suitcases with them during their stay. According to former Bachelorette Andy Dorfman, she was given a hefty packing list. This included clothing for both cold and warm weather, athletic wear, bathing suits, heels, tennis shoes, sandals, cocktail, long and casual dresses, and heavy coats. But it's hard to say how strictly this rule was enforced since former Bachelor contestant Jacqueline Swartz claimed to have brought 6 suitcases with her. So how do you apply for The Bachelorette in the first place? Well, before you get on the show's camera, you'll need to take some pics and video of your own. After filling out an exhaustive application, you're expected to submit anywhere from 5 to 15 photos of yourself. That's in addition to a video showcasing your home, any pets you may have, and your description of a fantasy date. Only if you can produce a certain standard of content will you be invited to continue on with the application process. Fans know The Bachelorette is full of surprises, and formerly popular contestants can fall out of favor in an instant. But The Bachelorette does get some coaching behind the scenes, and it's up to her to make it seem like any contestant could be the one she chooses. Even if she's smitten with one right out of the gate, she's required to keep it on the down low and not be obvious about it. It's all the more entertaining when it appears to be a stiff competition. We've all heard the conventional advice not to talk about politics on a first date, but The Bachelorette takes it to the next level. The contestants aren't allowed to talk about politics at all. Revealing their political beliefs could alienate viewers and cause them to stop watching the show. If the contestants try to break this rule, whether accidentally or on purpose, the producers will force them to stop and then redirect the conversation. It makes sense why this topic is forbidden, but it certainly seems like it could be an issue when the cameras stop rolling and the remaining couple has some serious issues to work out. Meeting someone you hit it off with is an exciting time, and it's not uncommon to feel like you just can't keep your hands off of each other. But if you're a contestant on The Bachelorette, you're going to have to restrain yourself from demonstrating affection. Sure, we've seen plenty of kissing, but that's about as far as things can go, at least until it's time for the fantasy suite. It was huge news when we found out Hannah Brown had gotten intimate with contestant Peter Weber on their overnight date in a windmill? Hey, we're not here to judge. Hannah had told contestant Luke that she'd been with another contestant in a windmill, and during fantasy suites, we finally learned who the lucky guy was. Signing up to be on The Bachelorette really means signing over any and all expectations of privacy. Contestants may try to tell the crew to stop filming, but it's never going to work. The producers control when the microphones and cameras stop recording, and that happens pretty much never. The contestants' contracts state that the producers have the right to record them until they finally leave the show. You might think contestants are free the moment the show is over, but surprisingly that's not the case. Signing up for the show means ABC can control you for an entire year. Former Bachelorette Caitlin Bristow found this out the hard way when she wanted to join Dancing with the Stars and ABC said no. What do you think about the rules of The Bachelorette? Do you think they make for good television, or are they preventing people from finding true love?
I feel more confused than ever.
Share your thoughts with us in the comment section and then click on the subscribe button for more from The Taco. Bye for now.